Welcome, welcome! It's my dog with the Texas Space Navy bringing you another Star Citizen video. And today I thought I would touch a little bit more on the Chris Roberts Spectrum post, what it's all about, and I guess read it to you. I know a lot of other streamers and YouTubers have probably done this, but you can get my take on it. I already told you, it was a good read, but I'll go ahead and read it to you guys if you didn't have time to check it out. I'm just talking with some guys in my org. They haven't had a chance to check it out either. So maybe from this video, they will get something. First of all, thank you to everybody that's been watching the videos. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you to my Patreon and YouTube members. You guys, your generosity is amazing, and I can't thank you enough. I wish I could do like barbecue or something for you guys. That would be awesome. But thank you again. I really do appreciate it. You can help make dreams come true, and that's what we're trying to do. If you guys want to be members of either Patreon or YouTube, that information is going to be in the description of the video. Let's go ahead and jump into the video, jump into this video rather. And this was a question about the atmospheric room system 4 years later. Cameral, he's a YouTuber. He does a lot of videos and some pretty cool ones, actually, some really good ones. He said, "I was sure CIG showed us a video about the room system a long time ago, and I found it. Star Citizen around the verse 3.13, LA, November 10th, 2016. I was wondering where we are almost 4 years later, tested a few things, and made a video. I got a few comments. The red has an air shield. Well, only a very few ships have air shields. For example, the Prowler. Air shields also have a visual effect. I'm not aware of the Cutlass Red has an air shield, but it doesn't matter. I just did the same thing with the Aurora MR. Get off the pilot seat, remove the helmet, open the door. Perfectly fine. I go outside and I hear I am dying. I get no oxygen sounds. I went inside and was fine again." So, let us go to the original post that Chris Roberts did here. So we pull it up here, and he said the room system has been in the game for quite a while and fully works, including the equalization of gases, atmosphere between room volumes, including dissipation into the global room, aka open space or vacuum. When you suffocate for lack of oxygen, that is because you are in a room with not enough oxygen. The room system is basically how the game describes volumes of gas, their pressure, density, and temperature. So a planet has a room, its atmosphere. A ship has rooms, various compartments between bulkheads. Even the coil in Squadron 42 has its volume described by a room, in quotes. We use it for player status system, breathing oxygen. For atmospheric flight, the room system contains all the information in terms of density and composition of the atmosphere, in terms of gases that flight model uses to calculate drag and lift. The weather, some of the current weather ground effects are partially influenced by room's temperature, density, and even composition of gases in the atmosphere, contrails in the atmosphere and in space gas clouds, and atmospheric entry effects of ships. That was a big mouthful with a lot of parentheses. So the room system is very important for a lot of systems and has been in Star Citizen for years. What M. Gibson CIG was saying, and which I didn't read to you guys, and may have been lost in translation as you don't know our internal terms, is that rooms can have two states, mutable and immutable. Mutable means the room has a finite amount of density, pressure, gases, which can pass to another room if it's connected to it, and there is a difference in pressure. So if you open a door to space from the Aurora, if the internal room is set to mutable, the atmosphere inside will escape outside. Immutable means the room has what is considered an sorry guys, it's like 12 o'clock at night. Infinite amount of gas, and its pressure won't change. Planet atmosphere are immutable rooms, as is vacuum of space. When we first set up rooms on the vehicles, we didn't have the life support component and its related vents implemented yet, so we had a way to supply more oxygen to a room that had lost it. So the designers set up ship rooms as immutable, an infinite supply of oxygen basically. as a temporary measure just because otherwise, if you open the door into space, you would lose your internal breathable atmosphere and suffocate if you didn't have a spacesuit on. All ships have rooms, and in fact, why people occasionally suffocate on a ship in some places is because the room volume hasn't been set up correctly and there is some part of the ship without a room. And without a room, there is no atmosphere, and the game treats everything outside of a room as a vacuum. We have the initial implementation of life support components and their connected vents working internally, but rolling it out for the ships will take a while as we need to literally plumb the ships with a set of extra components. Not just the life support component, but all its vents. We have a few other systematic ships features like more interactive cockpits, DCS style, which I don't want it to be super DCS, maybe one or two switches, but let's not go overboard with all the switches to start a Star Citizen ship, please. We've been working on, as well as the dynamic fire system, which also uses the effects of the room atmosphere, and an update to the pipe system that shares resources like power, heat, fuel, atmosphere between components that will move more flexible, or that will be more flexible and scalable. So it's really a matter of scheduling when we do passes on our huge number of ships to set them up for new systems that are waiting and the ones to be ready soon. As everyone always has more work than time, it's going to be more efficient to update multiple things once we crack open a ship to update it. Hence, some of the functionality we have waiting in the wings hasn't been rolled out yet. There's a lot of very cool systematic gameplay that we've been working to finish off in the background for ships that once all together will create a spaceship simulation like no other. Let me give you an example that factors in our new physical damage that we're working on as I type. This is one of the things that I'm pretty involved in: fire, room, pipe, and player status systems. So guys, if you didn't pay attention to the first part with the room systems, pay attention to this part because this is really interesting. This is how Star Citizen is going to be. A ballistic round passes through the ship's shield, which scrubs off some of the kinetic energy, but not enough, as the round's velocity was high and it has a mass as well as armor-piercing round. It manages to penetrate the armor and strikes an internal component, say a power relay node. Sorry, again, it's 12 o'clock. Something else we are working on as part of a pipe system refactor. The power node takes damage, giving it a chance to misfire while in use. A few minutes later, the node does misfire, blowing its fuse and resulting in it catching fire. The crew of the ship doesn't realize a fire is broken out in one of the side corridors, as they are busily concentrating on fighting the ships attacking them. The fire starts to spread along the flammable surfaces, and the fire starts to engulf other components. They also catch fire. The engineer on the bridge of the ship sees his console flash red, giving him a warning that several components have failed, and looking at the ship's schematic, he sees a fire has broken out below decks. The engineer decides to seal the bulkhead doors on the corridor to contain the fire, but the doors have no power as the power node is out. He calms one of the crewmates to leave his turret and grab the extinguisher and put out the blaze, which is slowly creeping towards the power plant room. Fire reaching a ship's power plant or its ammo stores are too sure fireways, pun intended, for your ship to go boom. With the physical damage system, ships will no longer just explode when their hit points reach zero. They'll explode because something inside them went critical and exploded due to damage or heat. Which then damages everything else. Outside of that damage will affect the ability of the ship to function or its structural integrity, so they also could become a lifeless hulk as much as they could go up in a flash of light. When the crew member gets to the corridor where the fire has broken out, is already consumed a huge amount of oxygen in that room and released noxious gases, so the crew member can't breathe and quickly retreats to put on a fire-resistant suit and helmet. The engineer, in desperation, manages to reroute power away from the destroyed node through a secondary node, restoring power to enough of the bulkhead doors to allow him to contain the fire. Noticing that there is an external airlock in the sealed-off area, he opens the airlock, venting oxygen and sealed-off corridors in rooms to the vacuum of space, depriving the fire of its ability to burn, putting most of it out. By this time, the crew member is suitably dressed and can extinguish the fire that made it past the bulkhead door before it can grow again. The engineer then reseals the airlock and allows the life support system to replenish the air in the vented part of the ship. Once done, the engineer opens up the bulkhead door, allowing a crew member in to replace a fuse and power node, restoring power to that section of the ship, then returning to his turret. It's been a close call, but the ship's alive to fight. So that was pretty awesome. If the game ends up like that, that's going to be how the game should be. What he describes will possibly be once, or what I have described will possibly once we have finished and deployed the systems we're working on. He's saying that once they deploy those systems, that's the way it's going to be. I know it can be frustrating to wait for all this functionality to be online, but I promise you everyone is working hard and as smart as possible to get there. We're just going for a higher level of systematic gameplay versus scripted that most, if not all, games and architect all of this so it works in a multiplayer at scale is no small feat. Wow, that maybe I'm not reading that right because it is 12 o'clock at night. But yeah, he's saying that it's going to take a while because it hasn't been done before. I'm very invested in making Star Citizen's gameplay as systematic as possible, as I think it will open up so many possibilities of emergent and immersive gameplay. The downside of this approach is it takes longer to see results, as opposed to scripting actions, as you have to build the fundamental systems first and have them interact with each other before the full extent of gameplay becomes apparent. But for the long term, and for people's ability to lose themselves in the universe of Star Citizen for many years to come, it is the approach that will have the best results. So that took 12 minutes for me to read the first reply. And then there's a reply to that as well that we have to check out. So let me scroll down and we can find the original poster's return fire, I guess you could say, if I could find it. So what do you guys think of his first response? You can let me know in the comments down below as we scroll down to the next one. Actually, I'm just going to skip here. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to find his second response, Camarel's. Here it is. Chris, it's just the same old. I didn't even want to reply, but here we go. We are working on it. We know how frustrating it feels. We have this already in game, but Tech X is missing. Chris continuing describing in detail how the system is supposed to work one fine day. I don't even want that much detail in the damage model. I'm perfectly fine. Let's see if we can pull that up. The full of it. Here we go. I'm perfectly fine with the damage model room system that looks fine at first glance. In 8 years, CIG has not even achieved that. Lots of basic mechanics are still missing, and what we have is amateurish at best. What you, Chris, describe in your comment would take, at the very least, another 10 to 20 years. That is the problem, ignoring the basics, using amateurish mechanic placeholders, talking about how grand the game will be. But you will never be able to deliver so much detail, which we don't need, make it believable at first glance. Done. Unless you get 4 times as many people. I will surely check again in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and I'm sure we will hear the same excuses. So Chris had a pretty scathing reply here, at least in my opinion, and it's deserved. But let's just get into it. I wouldn't normally do this, but I know you've invested a lot of time into Star Citizen, including on the testing and community content creation. So I'm going to take your reply to as a sign of frustration and try to add a little more context to help you see the bigger picture. What were you hoping to get from your original post? I was assuming I was wondering where we are almost 4 years later, tested a few things, and made a video. I shared information on where we are and why you don't see something you thought you should. Part of the motivation for answering this is that I commonly see people assume things aren't true, like the room system not being in the game because one aspect of the system doesn't have the behavior that they think it should. I wanted to give you an extra context and information so you and others in this thread had a better understanding of what it is, what it isn't, and why isn't it, and what is left to do. If you want to encourage me or other developers to answer questions, then it helps to not turn around and question people's professionalism or make sweeping statements. If someone did that to you in your job, I'm sure it would be irritating. I have a thicker skin than most developers at CIG and realize that not everyone is speaking in their first language or realizes how they phrase things might not have been the best, but in general it is the best to approach things with constructive criticism, leaving the ad hominems out. You wouldn't be putting this much time into something if you didn't care, so why put the energy into posting something that a developer will dismiss because it feels like an attack? I can tell you that being considerate of someone and treating them with respect will get you much further than being dismissive. The development team reads these forums and other pieces or places like Reddit, and the community's feedback really helps. But the feedback that gets actioned on, that gets passed around internally and discussed, is the constructive type, not the overly negative type. Just saying something sucks isn't helpful. Explaining why it sucks for that user and their ideas to potentially rectify it is helpful. That whole first couple paragraphs is a perfectly fine rebuttal for Camarel's attack on Christopher Roberts and on the game. I agree with him. That was not cool to attack in that way. And they've been enduring all sorts of attacks over the years. So I don't blame him one bit for coming back like this. My biggest disappointment with modern internet discourse is that there's a significant amount of cynicism, especially in forum or Reddit debates, and a portion of people assume the worst. If a feature is missing, late, or buggy, it's because the company or developer lied or is incompetent, as opposed to the fact that it just took longer and had more problems than the team thought it would when they originally set out to build it. Developers, by their very nature, are optimistic. You have to be to build things that haven't ever been built before. Otherwise, the sheer weight of what is needed to be done can crush you. But being optimistic or not foreseeing issues isn't the same as lying or deliberately misleading people. Everyone at CIG is incredibly passionate about making Star Citizen the most immersive, massively multiplayer first-person universe sandbox, and everyone works very hard to deliver that. If we could deliver harder, faster, better, we would. We get just as frustrated with the time things take. We practice bottom-up task estimation where the team implementing the features breaks it down and gives their estimates of how long it will take them to do. Management doesn't dictate timelines. We just set priorities for the teams, as there are always a lot more things to do at any one time than we have people to do them. We are constantly reviewing and trying to improve our agile development process and how we estimate sprints. As the code, feature, and content base grows, there is more maintenance and support needed for the existing features and content, which can eat into the time the team has for new features development, meaning you always have to push and pull of current quality of life in a release versus delivering new features and content. That the same push and pull exists in the community, as there is a strong desire for polished, bug-free gameplay now, but also new features and content, often from the very same people. Things like the salvage haven't been pushed back on a whim, but because in terms of priority, we felt that it would be premature to work on salvage before the iCache and physical damage system is implemented in the game, as this is fundamentally changing how they manage the state, handle damage and debris. So they can't put it in before the other, because that would be having to do twice as much work. So when presented with the priority call to make on resource allocation, we deprioritize salvage in order to build the infrastructure to really make it sing, as opposed to working on a system we will have to refactor when the iCache and new damage system come online. We have also decided we wanted to invest more time into quality of life, performance, and stability in Star Citizen as it is actively played every day by tens of thousands of people. On normal days, we have an average of over 30,000 different people playing, and at the peak during events this year, we've hit 100,000 unique accounts playing in one day, which is pretty impressive for a game in its early alpha state. We are on track to have over 1 million unique players this year. Star Citizen already has the main game loops of a space sim: cargo hauling, commodity trading, mercenary pirate, bounty hunting, and mining. Just spending the time refining them, finishing out these would make Star Citizen, with all its detail and fidelity, more engrossing than any finished space sim you can play today. He's not wrong. We've shown a preview of the new roadmap format, and here's a little link to it, that we are working on. Part of the motivation for changing how we share the task we are working on and their progress is so community can get better visibility into the hard choices that we face every day on a project and see what exactly every team is working on, as opposed to just a few tasks we feel comfortable sharing because we think we have high probability to make that quarter. When we make priority call and move up or add a task, there's always something that needs to be pushed back. The new format, which tracks our 58 feature and content teams that work on Star Citizen Squadron 42, will be able to show what each team is working on, and if the new initiative, like improving the cargo hauling experience, gets added, you'll see the task that get pushed back on the teams that will work on this new initiative. As a point of data, these teams can be anywhere from 4 people to 20 people, and of the 58 teams, only 11 exclusively dedicated to Squadron 42, and 12 for Star Citizen. And the rest are shared, things like graphics, engine, actor, vehicle, AI, visual effects, sound, and so on. Although a lot of priorities for things like actor, vehicle, and AI are driven by what Squadron needs. Switching the roadmap format was something that I made priority for us at the start of the year, when it was clear that the current roadmap format wasn't helping, especially as teams really didn't want to commit until absolutely definitely their future would make it, which you'll normally only do or only know about 6 weeks before release. Due to the vitriol they would see when a task was pushed back, despite our best efforts to get everyone that looks at the current roadmap to read and acknowledge the caveats, which explicitly say some of the tasks are likely to slip. Getting tired of this, I felt we would be best for the community to see the same view I and the rest of the senior development management see Star Citizen and Squadron 42. This won't stop people from disagreeing with our priority calls or how long something takes, but at least it will share the overall picture and people can get exactly what everyone is working on any moment and how long it's projected to take. They will be able to see it change when it does for us, and hopefully appreciate how many people are working really hard to make Star Citizen a game like no other. One of the reasons the new roadmap is taking time is because we're building a system that visualizes all this as a top level directly from Jira database. We plan to use more verbose version of the public roadmap for our internal sprint scheduling. So the data you see will be sanitized version of what we see. We won't share individual developer names and assignments publicly for obvious reasons, but internally we will see this. I sense from your reply to me that it's time taken and priorities that you're frustrated with, as you feel like we're focusing on the wrong things. I can see that point of view, but you're looking at it from outside without the full knowledge of exactly what it will take, and the order it needs to be done in to deliver the gameplay that will set Star Citizen above everything else. This is the game I've dreamed of my whole life. Now I'm in a position to realize it. I am not willing to compromise its potential because it takes longer than I originally envisioned. What I will commit to, and what is an internal priority, is to improve the current gameplay and quality of life as we go. As Star Citizen is already fun in many ways, even in more buggy and not as stable as I would like, and just finishing off and polishing the basics will make it play as well or better than most games. I can promise you the gameplay I describe is not a pipe dream, nor will it take 10 to 20 years to deliver. I describe systems we either have working or are working on. We've even shown early versions of some of this like on Inside Star Citizen. I can't promise you exactly what quarter it will come together, but once the new roadmap web work is done, you'll be able to see teams progressing to achieve what I describe in real time. Thank you for your support and passion over the years, and I hope this extra insight was helpful. Okay, so I'm 25 minutes into this video. I've read both replies by Chris Roberts to Camarel, who everybody probably knows as a YouTube guy. He's got a lot of great videos out there. I think it gives us a lot more insight into the development process, what they have planned for Star Citizen. Let me know in the comments down below if you're excited about the way Chris replied, if you think the game's in bigger shambles than ever, and his reply is an act of desperation, whatever. I'm not in that boat. I think his reply came at the appropriate time, and I feel like it was very measured, and it was a good reply to Camarel, who tried to roast into Star Citizen for being a game that's been in development for 8 years or whatever. Let me know in the comments down below what you think. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell icon to let me know, or let you know when I do more of these videos. I really want to hear from you about this video. What is your thoughts on it? I'm just telling you my thoughts. I feel like it was a good read by Chris. I think it was a good post, and I'm excited for the game. I don't think it's going to take 10 to 20 years for this stuff to be in. I think it'll be in before this time next year. At least a lot of the pipe system that he's talking about. I'm Mud Dog with the Texas Space Navy, and I'll see you out